Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into something today that I'm sure everyone has experienced but probably hasn't given much thought to. Itch.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
We've got some great source material here
Huh?
to really dive deep into this. We've got some Wikipedia articles
Yeah.
on itch itself,
Mm-hmm.
xeroderma,
Oh, wow.
the scratch reflex,
Interesting.
and even a little excerpt
Okay.
about how pain can actually relieve itch.
Really? That's weird.
I know, right?
Interesting.
Pain relieving itch, who knew? So our mission today is
Yeah.
to really understand what itch really is
Okay.
beyond just that annoying feeling,
Yeah.
What's the science behind it?
Right.
Why do we scratch?
Yeah.
And are there any, weird, surprising facts
Yeah.
hidden in this everyday sensation?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating how something so universal, like everybody itches,
Okay.
is so complex scientifically. Itch
Mhm.
is really like a world of its own, with
Yeah.
its own nerve pathways and signals distinct from pain.
So it's not just like a lesser version of pain.
No, not at all.
Like pain
They're both unpleasant, sure.
Right.
But they trigger totally different reactions.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
pain makes you withdraw, get away from this.
Yeah, yeah.
But itch makes you want to get right in there and
Yeah.
scratch.
Okay, yeah, I get that. But then why does scratching feel so good?
Okay.
If I get stung by a bee, I don't want to rub that spot.
Right.
You
That's
know.
where it gets really interesting, I think.
Okay.
Scratching, even though it can hurt,
Right.
relieves itch because it inflicts a stronger sensation, like pain.
Okay.
It's like the sensory override.
Okay.
Pain trumps itch temporarily.
Interesting.
And get this, the brain's reward system is actually involved too,
What's...
making scratching pleasurable even when it hurts.
Wait, so my brain is giving me like a good job
Right.
signal for hurting myself.
It does seem counterintuitive.
Yeah, that seems a little backwards.
Well, it's a bit of a trap. The Science of Itch article that we have here, it mentions this itch, scratch, itch cycle.
Uh-huh.
Scratching feels good in the moment, but
yeah.
often it just makes the itch worse later.
Oh, wow.
So next time you feel that urge to scratch, just remember, you might be feeding the beast.
Oh, okay, so scratching is like a loan shark.
Yeah, right.
Short-term relief
Right.
with some seriously bad long-term consequences.
Exactly.
Okay, this is already making me rethink my scratching habits a little bit.
Yeah.
But before I, swear off scratching forever,
Okay.
let's talk about what causes itch in the first place.
Okay.
These Wikipedia entries list a ton of different things that can cause itch.
Yeah, there's a huge range.
Okay.
Everything from skin conditions,
Right.
like eczema and psoriasis, which I'm sure you've heard of,
Yeah.
to things like insect bites, allergies,
No.
even internal issues like diabetes
Right.
or thyroid problems can actually cause itching too. It's
Huh.
pretty wild.
Yeah, and don't forget dry skin, right? This article on xeroderma,
Right.
which is, a fancy name for dry skin, it points out that it's a major culprit,
Oh, yeah,
especially in winter.
for sure.
Yeah, so,
Right, and that's just the tip of the iceberg.
okay.
Infections, medications like opiates,
Wow.
even pregnancy can trigger itch.
Really?
There's a whole world of potential itch inducers out there.
Okay, so we've got a pretty good list of suspects here.
Yeah.
But how does this itch signal actually get from, say, a mosquito bite on my arm
Yeah.
all the way to my brain?
Well, it all starts with these specialized nerve fibers
Okay.
called proreceptors.
Receptors, okay.
And get this, they're only found in the top 2 layers of skin,
Huh?
not deeper tissues.
Wow.
It's like your body has this super sensitive, itchy shield
Well,
right on the surface.
okay, so when a mosquito bites,
Yeah.
those proreceptors are like, hey, something's poking me.
Right.
And then what?
Well, then they send a signal through nerve fibers to the spinal cord.
Okay.
And here's the mind-blowing part. You can actually scratch
Mm-hmm.
even without your brain getting involved.
Hold on. What? How can I scratch without my brain telling me to?
It's called the scratch reflex.
Okay.
And it's hardwired right into the spinal cord.
Wow.
So when you feel an itch,
Yeah.
that signal, it goes to the spinal cord
Right.
and bam, the scratching starts.
Wow. Okay.
It's like this automatic defense system.
That's crazy. But if we can scratch without our brains,
Yeah.
why do we even need them in the equation?
Well, the brain's role is to fine-tune that scratching,
Okay.
adding precision and control.
Uh-huh.
It helps you target that itchy spot more effectively.
Right.
Think of it like this. You've got this basic autopilot for scratching.
Right.
But the brain is like the skilled pilot
Okay.
who takes over for those tricky maneuvers.
I like that analogy, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like a tag team effort, spinal cord for the quick response.
Right.
Brain for the strategy.
Exactly.
Wow, this is already so much cooler than I thought it would
It's
be.
pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And there's more.
Okay.
The brain also helps us understand the context of the itch.
Oh,
Is it a mosquito bite we need to swat away?
right.
Or something more serious that we should get checked out?
Yeah.
It's this constant back and forth
Oh, wow.
between the spinal cord's rapid response
Uh-huh.
and the brain's more complex processing.
It's amazing how much is going on just to make us scratch.
I know, it's wild.
Yeah, I'm starting to appreciate this everyday annoyance in a whole new light.
Yeah.
But now I'm ready to dive even deeper.
Okay.
Bring on the molecules.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so we've talked about the nerve pathways and that, that scratch reflex.
Yeah.
But I'm ready to get down to the nitty-gritty here.
Okay.
What's actually going on
Yeah.
at the molecular level when we itch?
Oh, it's a whole world down there.
Yeah, I feel like there must be a whole microscopic world of activity happening under my skin.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very complex, a whole cast of molecular characters.
Okay.
It's like a tiny drama unfolding with
Well-
different molecules sending signals, triggering reactions,
Yeah.
and basically making us want to scratch like crazy.
Okay, so tell me more about this molecular drama.
Okay.
Who are the main players here?
Well, as we mentioned before, itch can be either histaminergic or non-histaminergic.
Right. Okay.
Histaminergic itch is, the kind most people are familiar with,
Yeah.
triggered by, you guessed it, histamine.
Right.
It's the culprit behind those allergic reactions
Mhm.
that make you reach for the antihistamines.
Okay. Yeah, histamine, the classic itch instigator.
Right.
So what about those non-histaminergic itches?
Yeah.
What's setting those off?
That's where things get even more interesting.
Okay.
There are other molecules at play,
Huh?
like certain neuropeptides,
Right.
which are essentially signaling molecules in our nervous system. They can actually directly activate those itch-sensing neurons,
Ah.
causing us to feel that urge to scratch.
So it's not just one bad guy, it's like a whole gang
Right, a whole crew.
of itch-inducing molecules.
Exactly.
But how do scientists even figure out which molecules are involved in all this?
Yeah.
It seems incredibly difficult to track these, tiny players.
You're right, it's not easy.
Yeah.
But scientists are using some pretty incredible techniques.
Okay.
They can analyze gene expression to see which genes are turned on or off
Uh-huh.
in the cells involved in itch signaling. It's like looking for clues in our genetic code
Yeah.
to understand how these molecular pathways work.
So they're basically figuring out the molecular recipe for itch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One gene at a time.
That's incredible.
And these studies are revealing all sorts of fascinating details.
Like what?
For example, researchers have discovered that even bacteria can make us itch.
Wait, bacteria?
Yeah.
Really?
Remember that Staphylococcus aureus bacteria we talked about earlier? Yeah.
Well, it turns out it can directly activate those itch-sensing neurons in our skin.
Hold on. Bacteria can make us itch.
It can.
That's just adding insult to injury.
Right.
How does that even work?
It's pretty sneaky.
Okay.
This bacteria produces an enzyme
Hmm?
that interacts with a specific receptor on our sensory neurons.
Mm-hmm.
And that interaction basically sets off this cascade of events
Right.
that ultimately leads to that itchy feeling.
Wow, it's like a microscopic invasion
Yeah.
that triggers our itch response.
It is.
So we've got histamine, neuropeptides,
Yeah.
bacteria, and probably a whole bunch of other molecules we haven't even discovered yet,
Oh, for sure.
all playing their part in this itch symphony.
Right.
This is mind-boggling.
It really is.
And as if that wasn't complex enough,
Right.
there's also this concept of sensitization to consider.
Yes, exactly.
Sensitization. I'm not familiar with that term.
Okay, so sensitization basically
Yeah.
means that the more we're exposed to an itch-inducing stimulus.
The more sensitive our nervous system becomes to it.
Oh, okay.
Think of it like this. The more we scratch,
Yeah.
the more our bodies learn to amplify that itch signal.
So it's like our bodies are turning up the volume on the itch.
Exact.
Doesn't that seem kind of counterproductive?
It can be.
Yeah.
This sensitization can happen both in the skin itself and in the spinal cord and brain.
Oh, wow.
It's like a double whammy.
Okay.
our skin becomes more sensitive,
Right.
and our brain gets better at perceiving and amplifying that itch signal.
That explains why sometimes it feels like the more I scratch,
Right.
the worse the itch gets.
Exactly.
It's like I'm trapped in this vicious cycle.
You are. It's a vicious cycle. It's a fascinating but frustrating example
Yeah.
of how our bodies can sometimes work against us,
Right.
turning a minor annoyance into a major problem.
Okay, so we've gone from the basics of itch
Right?
to this incredibly complex world
Yeah.
of molecular pathways
Yeah.
and sensitization.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how much is going on.
I
It's
know.
beneath the surface of something we experience so often.
It's wild.
But I am curious,
Yeah.
all these signals are eventually heading to the brain, right?
Right.
So what's happening up there
Yeah.
when we're feeling itchy?
That's a great question. And that's where we'll pick things up in the next part of our deep dive.
Okay.
The brain plays a critical role in how we perceive and respond to itch.
Right.
And there's some really interesting things going on in there.
Okay, so we've gone on this journey from the surface of the skin
Right.
through that network of nerves
Yeah.
and then into that bustling molecular world of itch.
It's a busy place down there.
And now I'm ready to face the final frontier,
Okay.
the brain.
All right.
What happens in our command center when those itch signals arrive?
Well, the brain doesn't just passively receive those signals.
Okay.
It interprets them, creating that conscious experience of, ugh, I'm itchy.
Right, right.
It takes into account the location of the itch, how intense it is,
Okay.
even the emotional context.
So an itch on my nose might feel different than one on my ankle.
Exact.
And if I'm already stressed out, a mysterious itch might bug me even more.
Exactly.
Huh. Interesting.
It goes beyond just perception, though.
Okay.
The brain also plays a crucial role in deciding how we react.
Okay.
Should we scratch? Ignore it. Try some other strategy to soothe the irritation.
So even though that initial scratch reflex happens in the spinal cord,
Right.
the brain is still like calling the shots,
Right.
deciding the best course of action.
The brain can fine-tune that scratch reflex,
Mm-hmm.
make it more precise and effective. It's
Yeah.
like saying, okay, spinal cord, thanks for the heads up, but let me handle this with a bit more finesses.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing the brain is also behind that contagious itch phenomenon.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, when you see someone scratching and then suddenly you feel itchy too.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Our mirror neurons fire up,
Wow.
making us feel the itch vicariously.
It's almost like our brains are saying, if they're scratching, I should probably check for any potential threats too.
Right. Exactly.
Fascinating, but also a bit unsettling.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so we've learned a lot about what causes itch, how it travels through our bodies, how our brains interpret and react to it.
Right.
But let's get to the kind of practical stuff here.
Okay.
What can we actually do to stop the itch madness?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
The good news is that there are effective treatments for itch.
Good.
But, like we've been discussing, it all depends on that underlying cause.
So no one-size-fits-all solution.
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
For simple itches caused by, say, dry skin,
Yeah.
moisturizers are your best friend.
Okay.
Look for ingredients like hyaluronic acid or ceramides, which help lock in that moisture.
And I imagine make sure to moisturize regularly,
Absolutely.
not just when your skin feels like sandpaper.
Exactly. Prevention is key.
Yeah, good advice.
For allergies, over-the-counter antihistamines can be really helpful.
Right.
They work by blocking those effects of histamine, which, as we discussed, is a major player in those allergic reactions.
And for like more stubborn itches, I imagine a doctor might prescribe something stronger,
Yeah,
like corticosteroids.
you're right.
Okay.
Corticosteroids are powerful anti-inflammatories.
Right.
They can help reduce the itching, the redness, and swelling.
And for certain conditions, like, say, severe psoriasis,
Yeah,
I think I've heard that phototherapy can be very effective.
that's right.
Phototherapy, what is that exactly?
Well, it involves exposing the skin to controlled doses of ultraviolet B light,
Okay.
or UVB light.
Mhm.
It can help suppress the immune response,
Okay.
reduce inflammation, ultimately leading to itch relief.
So even light can be medicine.
It can. It's like giving your skin a very precise dose of sunshine.
It seems like there's a whole arsenal of weapons to combat itch.
There is.
But I imagine all these treatments come with potential side effects.
That's true. It's essential to talk to your doctor about the potential risks and benefits before starting any treatment, especially those involving medications or light therapy.
Good advice.
They can help determine the best option for your specific situation and monitor you for any adverse reactions.
Always good advice.
Yeah.
Speaking of things we should be cautious about,
Okay.
let's address the big one here, scratching.
Yes.
It feels good in the moment, but we know it can actually make things worse.
We do.
How do we break that itch-scratch cycle?
It's tough because that urge to scratch is so deeply ingrained in our biology.
Right.
But awareness is the first step.
Right.
Recognizing that scratching often just fuels the fire can help you resist that urge.
So what are some things we can do instead of scratching?
Yeah.
I've heard of things like cool compresses,
Yep.
oatmeal baths. Do those actually help?
They can,
Okay.
cooling or warming techniques can provide temporary relief. Some people find that gentle stimulation, like lightly rubbing the area with a soft cloth,
Right.
can also be very soothing.
So it's all about finding what works best for you.
It is.
Okay.
And don't forget the most important part,
Yeah.
addressing that underlying cause.
Right, of course.
If the itch is due to a skin condition, eczema, for example,
Right.
managing that condition is key to breaking the cycle.
It seems like managing itch is a multifaceted approach.
It is.
You need to understand the cause,
Yeah.
find ways to soothe the sensation, and then resist the urge to make it worse by scratching.
Exactly.
No easy feat.
It takes effort and patience.
Yeah, for sure.
But with the right approach and guidance from a healthcare professional,
Right.
even chronic itch can be managed effectively.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into itch.
We have.
From the surface of our skin to the depths of our nervous system.
Amazing.
We've explored the causes, the mechanisms, even the treatments.
It's truly remarkable how something so commonplace,
Yeah.
so seemingly simple,
Right?
can be so incredibly complex and fascinating.
It really is.
Yeah.
And before we wrap up, I have one final question here.
Okay.
We learned that scratching is like this hardwired reflex.
Right.
A program running in our spinal cords since, well, who knows how long ago.
Right.
Doesn't that suggest that itch must have played like a pretty important role
I think so.
in our survival?
Yeah, and scientists are still exploring those evolutionary implications of itch.
Okay.
It likely served as an early warning system,
Okay.
alerting us to parasites, insects, or other harmful things on our skin
Right.
that needed to be removed.
So even though it's annoying,
Yeah.
itch is actually a protective mechanism.
It is.
A way for our bodies to say like, hey, pay attention to this.
Exactly.
And that scratching reflex, while sometimes problematic, probably helped our ancestors avoid infections and other dangers. It's amazing to think that something we often curse under our breath might have played a crucial role in our survival as a species.
I know. It's pretty wild.
Well, on that note, dear listeners, we encourage you to continue exploring the world of itch.
Yeah.
Perhaps you're curious about specific skin conditions,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you want to delve deeper into those evolutionary aspects.
Right.
Whatever sparks your interest.
Yeah.
There's a whole universe of knowledge waiting to be uncovered.
Exactly.
Just asking questions.
Keep learning.
And never underestimate the power of a good scratch.
But maybe try a cool compress first.
Yeah, good advice.
Or
Until next time, stay curious, and may your itches be few and far between.